Hey, paisanos! It's the Super Mario Bros. Movie review! It's 2023, and video game adaptations are getting objectively better. And while some studios are still stuck in the tutorial, others are unlocking achievements. But does the Super Mario Bros. Movie reach to the top of the flagpole, or does it fall halfway? Let's start with the good, because there's plenty of it. In terms of visuals, this movie is a delight. Gorgeous backgrounds and character designs that faithfully recreate all its star players from the games, giving them small design tweaks to make sure that they work cohesively together for the film and to help emphasize their emotions. Illumination Entertainment can deliver when they really need to, and they definitely knock it out of the park here. But besides the visuals, their adaptation of the game's vast library of music is a standout, with creative arrangements top to bottom, orchestrated to perfection with the help of composer Brian Tyler. I constantly found myself bobbing my head and grooving in my seat, just letting myself get lost in both the visual and auditory spectacle. Sonic movies, please take note. And if you're a huge Mario fan, let me tell you, so were the people working on this film. Because it is packed to bursting with references big and small, from beginning to end. Folks are going to comb over every inch of this film when its home release drops. I can only wait for the top 20 things you didn't notice in the Super Mario Bros. Movie 2023 videos to clog my recommendations on YouTube. This, however, is where things start to get a little more mixed, as while the wall-to-wall Easter eggs, references, nods, callbacks, etc. are all fine and good and genuinely welcome, it does often feel like the film is less interested in telling its own story and more involved with giving you an hour-and-a-half long mea culpa for the 1993 film. The movie's plotline is as thin and dry bones as they come. They could have spent their time exploring the characters on their journeys, explaining the history of the world, but instead, we get set pieces and barely strung together sequences designed to streamline the plot as much as possible. In the interest of cutting the fat, it feels like we lost too much meat. Of course, this might not be a problem for you, if you're a huge Mario fan who's just in it to see one of their favorite franchises finally flourish with a faithful film after foregone failures. And when you're in the moment, it is easy enough to just get lost in the spectacle and wonder of seeing these classic characters so beautifully rendered and voiced. And speaking of those voices, let's address the 800-pound gorilla. No, not that one. Yet. While I will literally never say that Chris Pratt was the best choice for Mario, he actually does bring a solid performance to the role here. His accent isn't too over the top, but it is present and consistent throughout the film, and he brings his trademark everyman charm, which is in line with this characterization. This does make Mario feel slightly generic, but luckily the animation gives some really solid facial expressions, and his characterization is proactive and steadfastly defensive of his brother, so he never feels boring. And yes, I know, many folks wanted something closer to the games and even wanted Charles Martinet, who does have a couple cameos in the film, to play Mario as he does in the games. But that topic could be a video all on its own. And it actually might be. Suffice to say, they did a good job for what they were aiming for. Speaking of Mario's brother, Charlie Day might be the perfect casting of this film. He manages to make Luigi adorable and relatable here, which I think is invaluable. His meek nature comes off as endearing instead of annoying, and I'm genuinely impressed with Day's performance, especially given how grating many of his other characters can be. Amazingly funny, but grating. And of course, it's to nobody's surprise that Jack Black steals the show like Bowser steals princesses. And while I still feel like it was stunt casting, and that there are likely better fits for the King of Koopas, he is giving it his all. And the choice to go with Simp Bowser was absolutely the right one. Balancing out his tyrannical, ruthless, menacing nature with a dorky, misguided infatuation with Princess Peach makes him easily the most faithfully adapted and entertaining character in the film. And having him sing a short love ballad about Peach was a great way to utilize Jack Black in his entirety. I'm gonna fuck you softly. And while Seth Rogen doesn't bring anything new or exciting to his take on Donkey Kong, he does give a very lively, passionate, and funny performance as Mario's first antagonist. Meanwhile, Keegan-Michael Key is an inspired choice for Toad, playing him pitch perfect for Mario's peppy, sometimes shrill sidekick. Anya Taylor-Joy as Princess Peach, on the other hand, is where we start to see some real cracks. But not because she was necessarily miscast, she does her best with what the script has given her here. But Princess Peach's characterization and non-existent arc make her one of the most lacking characters in the film, in comparison to how important she is to the narrative. She's a hyper-competent leader, steadfast in her mission to save her people, kicking ass in a dress and projecting a strong but distinctly feminine strength. But she has no development, no flaws, no quirky character traits that endear her and make her relatable. In their mission to avoid painting her as a damsel in distress, they overcorrected and made her boring. And she is far from the only character whose writing suffers heavily in this film. Mario is the only character who gets a satisfying arc. Meanwhile, his brother Luigi is literally swapped out for the role of Peach in the games. He becomes the damsel in distress, waiting for Mario to come and save him. Which could not have been bad if Luigi had been given something meaningful to do while under Bowser's imprisonment, but he's not. He spends a good majority of the film locked up, making the film's spectacular climactic finale ring the slightest bit hollow. And that's frustrating because it's not the Super Mario movie or the Mario and Donkey Kong movie, it's the Super Mario Brothers movie. But sorry Mario, your brother is in another castle. And almost everything to do with the Kong Nation barely contributes to the overall narrative. While it does set up for a marvelous Mario Kart sequence, which I highly appreciate, and it's super cool to see another land in the Mario world, DK is actively taking screen time and development away from other characters. Luigi gets put in a cage for a majority of the runtime so Donkey Kong can be his partner instead. And the rest of the Kongs have little to do with the overall climax of the film, making their recruitment feel pointless. Also, why is Toad here? I mean, I know why he's here, he's Toad. But he literally shows up, grabs Mario, and takes him to the princess out of nowhere, instantly becoming his best bud for no discernible reason. We don't know where he comes from, what his motivations are beyond wanting to adventure. He's basically this magical fairy inserted into the plot to make sure it keeps moving at its breakneck pace. The film's biggest flaw to me is not what's in the film, it's what's missing. Actually, no, the biggest flaw is the licensed music. Holy wow, was it a full-on punch to the septum every time we went from gorgeously arranged orchestrations of classic Mario music to late 80s, early 90s chart toppers. And it's made worse knowing that many of these scenes, if not all of them, already had arrangements of Mario music already composed for them, only to be replaced by this licensed bullshit. I genuinely want to see a pirated version of this film now where someone switches the music out, because that would be an objective improvement. Now, a lot of what I said here is not going to deter many of you who have yet to see it, and for many of those who have, which is probably most of you at this point, you've already enjoyed the film and find my criticisms to be pointless, misguided, pedantic, etc. And that is fine. If the movie worked for you, and you got what you wanted out of it, all the more power-ups to you. I just feel like it's important to at least acknowledge and discuss this film's potential problems. I've played Mario since I was a kid, and I was excited for something a little meatier and well put together. What I got was something fun, easily digestible, but ultimately fluff with a lot of passion behind it that left me wanting more. And not in the good way. I do genuinely hope that it gets a sequel. There's a lot of potential stories you could tell now that these characters are firmly established, and many of the problems of this film could be fixed in the next. But that's just my perspective. What do you think? I'd love to hear your opinions in the comments below. And please, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff if you want more. I love making these, and I'd love to know if you like me making them too. Bye bye!